Good morning, everybody. I'm Michael Burns, Chair of the EDA of Moorhead, and the meeting date is April 12th, and I call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ollie, please unmute yourself and say, thank you. Anderson? Nate Anderson?
Here.
Michael Burns?
Here.
Shelley Carlson?
Here.
Thank you. Chad Coda?
Here.
Alex Cusa?
Here.
Thank you. James Hand?
Here.
Joel Paulson?
Here.
Jeff Schauman? Bobby Soline?
Here.
And Deb White?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any agenda amendments?
We have none at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on. Approval of the minutes from our last meeting, March 1st. Any
Deb
comments?
White moves to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Thank you. Any citizens here to address the board?
We have nobody on the call on the WebEx for public comments.
Thank you, Derek. Commissioners' reports. James, do you have anything to offer with the MBA?
Yes, I'll actually have Sherry provide an update, right? Or do you want me to read it off? All right, I'll do the update today. Let me just pull it up here real quick. Okay, the NBA is excited to announce that we are busy, excuse me, working on the upcoming annual events. We have the NBA annual Par T golf tournament on May 27th. There's only a few of individual player spots available. We'd like to thank Kovash Marine and Vanna Adventure Vans on this year's hole-in-one sponsors. We have the Moorhead Proud 5650 Ooh and Ah 4th of July celebration. Drive up and tune in to Bob 95 and celebrating the 48th year for this tradition. A big shout out to our major sponsors, American Crystal Sugar, Sanford Health, and Kovash Marine. Please consider to chip in and get involved in this free event for the community. Bridge Bash 2021, the NBA team have meetings set up with staff from NDSU, MSUM, Concordia College, M-State, and more. Watch for more information on how your business can get involved in welcoming the college students back to Moorhead. Frostival of 2022, the committee's met, and we're very excited to make next year's Frostival 2022 bigger and better. And finally, Moorhead Cruise Night, the first Thursday of each month, starting on May 6th. Center Avenue from Center Mall to 7th Street will be blocked off. Vendor booths are available, and as well as sponsorship opportunities. To learn more, attend the meeting on Thursday at 7 p.m. at Moorhead Billiards. Oh, never mind, I still have more stuff. There's 2 pages. The MBA invites your business to be a part of many upcoming events. We have room on committees as well, starting with Let's Talk Business. These meetings are held every week at noon at the Moorhead American Legion. This week, Labby with Father and Sons Cleaning will be our guest speaker. Next week's speaker will be Bryce with the Home Builders Association. We have MBA 560 Connect tomorrow night at the American Legion from 4 to 6 p.m. Urban Foods Catering will be providing the food. And finally, to learn more about how you can get involved in the MBA, please reach out to the MBA team, Sherry and Nick. And another thank you to Sherry for doing an excellent job as the executive director of the MBA. That is all.
Thank you. Any comments from anyone? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Moorhead Public Service discussion with Travis Smith.
Yeah, and I'll maybe just give a little context before Travis or as he gets set. We've utilized a program here in Moorhead for economic rates through MPS for a little bit. There's some changes to it, so Travis will give a little bit of update on what MPS is doing. And I will just say before he starts that Amy and Dan Molly and myself and others have reviewed this. We think it's a really great option and a nice tool to create some flexibility for some of our rate users in Moorhead. So thanks. And Travis, go ahead.
Like Derek said, we've actually had an economic development incentive program for about a decade now, a little more than that. It was really tied around the primary sector businesses. So you're looking large customers base, and that's really the reason that we're here today is we want to talk about that. Typically, that had about the incentive was a 1 cent per kilowatt hour credit that we would give on an annual basis over 5 years. So that's really kind of the background on it, and then we're making some changes. Actually, last Tuesday at the MPS, or Moorhead Public Service Commission meeting, the commission actually approved this program. Again, we're going to be visiting with you guys today as well, and then providing this to the council tonight, because they will have to take a little bit of action as well too on this. Overall, we have a new economic development rate incentive program, EDRI program is what we call it. And really what's going on is Missouri River Energy Services, our supplemental power supplier for Moorhead, has come up with a program that actually is beneficial to Moorhead, MPS, and our customers as well too. Really, the primary benefits of this is a tiered program, and it allows smaller or more medium-sized businesses and expanding businesses to qualify for some type of economic rate discount. Now, that's what Missouri River is calling their program. It's EDR, Economic Development Rate Discount Program is what it is. So the biggest part of this, or the primary reason for doing this, it has no impact to the city of Moorhead and Moorhead Public Service specifically. Currently, the way it works, it would be a reduction in transfer on all new sales. And with the transfer agreement that's in place, it doesn't work real well. So that's why we're making the modifications. The current transfer agreement, of course, has 2 tiers to it. It's got a kilowatt hour sales base, and then there's an annual increasing floor of $125,000 on an annual basis. And really what happens because of the transfer agreement, there is the increasing floor we're not there with the sales, so the increasing floor always takes precedent. And we want to modify that. By doing that, we don't have to worry about having to change any budgets on the city side or Moorhead Public Service side to handle this. So really the mechanics of how it works is Missouri River will provide a purchase power credit to Moorhead Public Service. Roughly 50% of that will go to the customer. The other 50% is available for Moorhead Public Service as well. And really what this does is it reduces our overall infrastructure costs initially. So we would be able to pay off if we needed new transformers, we had to bring wire to the area, we'd be able to pay those off. After that's all paid off, we're going to give the rest of the credit to the new business or expanding business. So really, on the second page of the PowerPoint, or what's in front of you guys, there's a page on the flyer. This is 2 pages are the main pages of the actual document. We'll get into this a little bit more as we go further into this. There's another slide there that really talks about how it works, and then really it shows the 4 tiers on the next slide. Overall, there is 4 tiers, so roughly 1 million kilowatt hours or 2 megawatts of peak demand. And that's how the customers are going to qualify for it. That also goes all the way down to a tier 1, which is a 250 kilowatts or $125,000 of kilowatt hour sales on an annual basis. And then there's roughly a 4-year program for that. So the first 2 years, and then it tiers down from there on the discounts that they get. Once you hit year 5, of course, you go to 0. How does it really, and of course, Missouri River, they also have a few caveats or requirements that are required. Again, it has to be in the Moorhead Public Service service territory. It has to be a new or expanding load. Again, we got to sub-meter that or provide some type of metering to prove that. Along with that, it can't be a business can't move from one location to the other in Moorhead and then get a discount as well too. So they do have some stipulations on there as well. And of course, they can't have any internal generation for those first 4 years as well. So those are some of the key requirements that Missouri River is going to require before they actually give the rate discount. And then from there, really, it's a communication piece. So we're going to have to work between Moorhead Public Service, the Economic Development Authority, trying to make sure we meet all those criterias. The customer will have to submit a application to Moorhead Public Service. We'll provide that to Missouri River. They'll figure out how, or what they're going to be getting, or we'll be working with them to figure out what their discount is going to be. And, there could be some times where a customer or a new business might kind of be between two different tiers, and based on what they provide for information on their metering, that's where, they could fall between the two tiers. So 1 month they might get or half a year they might get a certain cent per kilowatt hour rate reduction, and then another 6 months they could get the other half of that, or the lower half, depending on their usage. So that's something that we'll be handling internally. We also did a little bit of a modification. Before, we'd never really offered a water economic development rate incentive, and this is a little different. We don't have anybody really backing us on this one, so this is kind of done between MPS and the city of Moorhead. And really, it's a rate reduction, again, similar to the Missouri River one. But how this one is actually handled is any new sales would actually be reduced from the water transfer to the city of Moorhead. Again, those are the mechanics of it. That's how it works. We're probably looking at it on a lump sum annual basis that we would do it. So at the end of the year, we'd total everything, they total everything, make sure we got it right. We'd provide them a credit at the end of the year for the water portion of that. Really, again, like I said, how it's going to work, we'll be working with Derek and Amy and the Economic Development, and probably Moorhead Business Association as well, to get the information out to new customers or businesses that are looking to move to Moorhead. So from there, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I'll just make another comment if I can, Mr. Chair. So I think Travis did a good job summarizing. I think for us, it's another tool in the toolbox. These are great opportunities for us to share, especially with some of our manufacturing, more industrial type businesses. I think initially the program was used for extremely large users, so we didn't have the opportunity to maybe kind of help some of those, I would even say, large scale businesses or mid to large scale businesses. Think Anheuser-Busch was one of the ones that could take advantage of it, and we just don't have very many of those in our community or coming into our community on a yearly basis. So this provides great flexibility. I think we'll continue to add it if obviously it's gone through MPSs, but we'll continue to add this to our communication to promote our business incentives. But yeah, thank you, Travis, for taking the time to go through it and utilize an opportunity through Missouri River.
Yeah, correct. I would agree with Derek on that. You're going to probably see maybe a grocery store or maybe some smaller manufacturing business that could qualify now where they couldn't in the past, and that'll be a benefit to Moorhead and growing Moorhead.
Deb, you have your hand raised.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I have 3 questions. First, Travis, I appreciate this. I think anything that we can add to our toolbox in terms of providing incentives for businesses to come here and helping to level the playing field is great. My first question is that, MPS has done so much good work already in terms of increasing our sustainability. And so I wondered if you'd looked at integrating that into this. This is incentive for increasing their use of water and electricity. Could we do it in a way where we're also then incentivizing them to do it in a more energy efficient way, or ways that contribute to our sustainability? So you might have 2 new businesses that end up using the same amount, but one of them is doing it in a way that they can use those resources in a much more efficient way. Are there ways in which we could also give additional incentive to that, or just to really encourage that type of increased usage, as opposed to just purely doing it by volume? So I'll let you answer that, and then I have 2 other shorter, easier questions.
Sure. No, good question. Actually, I didn't go over this because I was trying to keep it brief. If you actually look at the requirements and the discount amounts, there is a load factor requirement. So depending on what tier it is, again, you're right, we want to have efficient electrification, we want to have good load. So it has to be, if I'm correct, for tier 1, it has to be above 50% or above. For tiers 2 through 4, it has to be above 60% load factor. So, and that's the requirements through Missouri River, that they're requiring it to have that. So everybody gets the same amount. So we're being equitable to all.
I would add too, and I appreciate your comment, Councilmember White. One thing I've found through my partnership with the state of Minnesota Chamber of Commerce is they have a complete energy team there. They can provide energy audits and connect people to other statewide programs for sustainability efforts. I know we've worked with Anheuser-Busch to potentially do that and some other ones. So I think there's other tools that we can tap into to hopefully help. That doesn't put all that burden on MPS or specifically Missouri River too.
Yeah, another point to reach out on that too is we do reach out to our customers as well. And there's rebate programs through the Bright Energy Solutions from Missouri River Energy Services that helps do some efficient electrification as well, whether it's changing out to LED light bulbs or changing out motors or putting VFD drives on it. Those are just some of the examples of that.
Great, thanks. And the other two questions, one is just, I wanted to confirm, can businesses receive both the water and, are they eligible for both the water and the electric incentives? And then also, when I looked at, on page 10, for electric, it looked like all of the new businesses had to be retail. Is it just retail, or could other businesses also qualify for the electric incentive?
Okay, good questions. Yes, they could qualify for both the water and electric if they have the water usage. Again, the water usage is a higher amount. It's going to be a heavy water user, and we can handle some of those up until we have to build another water plant. So that's, we're trying to build that load as well too, or usage. The second part of that, second question there, can you repeat that, Deb, please?
Yeah, when I looked at on page 10, and it just said for new businesses, it only referred to retail businesses. And so I wanted to see, is it only retail for the electric, or could other types of businesses also qualify?
Nope. Pretty much anybody that's looking to either expand or become a new business in Moorhead would be able to qualify it if they meet the requirements that are set forth.
Yeah, you may want to just change that wording then, so that just to make sure it's clear.
I will take a look at that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Comments? Eric?
I'll just say too, and I don't know if Travis is finding it or not. Deb, I don't know what page you're looking at, but we might just have to send an email over just so we make sure we see that. I'm seeing it on page 8 now that I'm looking at it. So I think I found it. I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you, guys.
Next item is placemaking in Moorhead. You want to add some commentary and introduce that, Derek?
Yeah, maybe I'll actually I see our city manager, Dan Molly's on. Maybe Dan, you want to introduce this one?
Well, I hope I don't just start talking a lot. I don't want to take it out, but we're really excited about what's happening in Moorhead. Our downtown plan kind of leads with this. It's a word. They call it placemaking. It's creating places where people experience and see things in new ways. And so one of our finer placemakers, activators in our community, Joe Burgum, the team at Folkways with Simone and Lee and Steve French and their whole team of people in the community really create wonderful places. We have all sorts of people like this. I think of Mara Morkan and many, many others that are doing this sort of work. And so we were meeting and just thought this would be a great place to bring this up. Our downtown plan leads with these sorts of initiatives, creating these experiences, these destinations where people want to be, and then the commercial, the living, all the things that we want in our life, our connection, transportations, how we do that just kind of follows up with that. So really appreciate Joe being here. I also want to say, as part of the budget that was approved by the Economic Development Authority for 2021, there were some funds set aside on marketing line item related to supporting placemaking initiatives. So this is a conversation that we anticipate having in the coming months that kind of move how we look at marketing Moorhead from advertisements, billboards, being in magazines and things like that to support experiences. So please look for that. And with that, Joe, thanks for being here.
Hope you're muted, Joe, if you want to.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
you
there we go. Thanks for having us, Joe from the Folkways team. Really appreciate being here with all of you over the noon hour. I've got a couple slides that I'm gonna try to share up so we can experience what we have going on. All righty, see if this comes through.
And Joe, if it doesn't work, you can, oh, here we go. I think we're good.
Perfect. Alrighty. My name is Joe Burgum. I'm the principal at Folkways. We are a placemaking studio based here in Fargo Moorhead. We also have a sister nonprofit that's been a little bit of our experimentation laboratory, you could say, for placemaking activities over the last 6 years. That nonprofit is home to things like the Red River Farmers Market, Chris Kindle Mart, Night Bazaar, Canoe Parade, and some other experiences that I'll share with you all today. So as I mentioned, we're a placemaking design studio. We focus on local community building. We have a background in design and strategy, so we're using an approach called human-centered design to really think about how do we solve problems for community, how do we formulate questions that really meet the needs of a community. We also use an approach called placemaking, as Dan mentioned, which is really core to the downtown master plan and something that I think can bring a lot of vibrancy to Moorhead. We're big believers in an incremental approach that emphasizes learning and adapting with each step. We've learned over the years of working with community, you really need to be thoughtful and engaging with community and figure out the rate at which a community can grow. We look at something like the farmers market. When we started the farmers market 7 years ago, we had a vision for what it could be. We're really only able to grow the market as fast as a farmer can grow. And so even if you have an amazing first year, there's only so many people that have planted that year that are ready to harvest and come to a market. And so we think that there really is an organic nature to placemaking, working with community thoughtfully. Here's a photo of the teams, myself, Simone Y, and Steve French. We make up the core team to the Folkways, along with a couple other staff that support us in our work. A couple of our clients that we've worked with in the past, West Fargo Public Library. We're currently working with the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library in Medora, Microsoft, GLG, Hatch, Coaching, Sanford, and Unseen. We've done a lot of experience design for these folks, as well as other strategy projects and public engagement. So some principles of placemaking. As I mentioned earlier, it's about taking small steps and truly listening. And so it really comes with this human-centered approach, really starting with empathy and understanding the community that you're serving. It's about integrating diverse opinions into a cohesive plan, ensuring that sustainability is part of the implementation, and making sure that there is a shared vision, turning a shared vision into a reality for a great place. We think that placemaking is really important to proceed development or large capital expenses. We think that there's something about getting the community excited and building that energy that's invaluable in creating spaces or being a predecessor to big projects in a community. A couple kind of things of what we think of what is placemaking and what is not placemaking. These are some of the words that we like to use and think about. And it's not a silver bullet. It really is an approach and a methodology to work with community and start to create really dynamic spaces. We're an interdisciplinary team, so we're using things like landscape architecture. We're obviously a small business, so we're very entrepreneurial as we think about marketing, outreach, strategy, that concept work to think of an event, and really thinking about how do we connect with other partners in the community. It really is a inclusive approach to bring lots of folks to the table. This is a great graphic from a wonderful organization called Projects for Public Spaces. I just want to kind of give everyone a high level when we think about a place and kind of all the components that come into it. There's a sociability element to it. There's uses and activities. We want to think about the comfortability, the image, the safety of a place. And of course, how are people going to get there? Can they drive? Can they bike? Can they walk? Can they take an electric scooter? How do we make sure that that place is interconnected? As you go a layer deeper, you can see here, and this may be a little bit bit small, but just to give you a sense of sort of all the layers that we think about when we think about a place, and these different components, and how do we create an environment that is fun, active, that is useful for people. As mentioned, we want to make it walkable, sustainable, have a sense of charm to it, and then the connectivity and the sociability. So a little bit of a deeper lens as we think about sort of what is placemaking. I want to share a brief placemaking story that I think really demonstrates this sort of incremental community need-based approach. So this is a photo from the farmer's market from a couple years ago, and you see this gentleman right in the center who's twirling this woman. He's an organizer of the Fargo Moorhead Salsa Club. And the Salsa Club came to us, and they had experienced all this great growth, and they were running out of space to host their events. And so they came to us and they said, hey, you know, is there any spaces that you're using? And we'd been activating the Broadway Garage, the former Goodyear Schumacher that some of you might be familiar with on Broadway and 4th Street in Fargo, 4th Avenue. And we had this garage, and we weren't planning on doing anything in there, but this sort of incremental organic approach when the Salsa Club came to us and said, hey, you know, we need a space. We said, well, maybe you could be in here. And we worked with them to move through the hurdles and really block and tackle for community members that had passion and energy. Our team is experienced in permits and administration, and how do we make sure the building is safe, and working with municipalities and things that the Salsa Club, that Eric and others, you know, they just wanted to host a space for people to come together and dance for free. And so we were able to block and tackle and create the space. And now all of a sudden on Friday nights, when we were in this venue, there was a free salsa club every Friday at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8. And the energy and life that came out of the space was so beautiful. And for us, it wasn't something that we were anticipating. It wasn't something that we had planned. It was this amazing mutually beneficial relationship where we were able to do this work, and they were able to activate the space. And it wasn't about a dollar or a rental agreement. It was about how do we bring vibrancy to the space, and how do we help community members who are passionate about something make a place. Here's a quick photo of the Broadway Garage, the former Goodyear Schumacher. We use a lot of physical pieces of infrastructure, places to sit, shade. We want to make sure it's welcoming. And then thinking about what are those events and activities, special events or utility that can bring people out in the community to enjoy the location. We also really like thinking about intergenerational components. It's so important in our community to be able to have space for mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, for kids, for teenagers to come and enjoy a space. And we love talking with folks of different ages and learning from them. What are they excited about? Here we have a young boy enjoying the bubbles floating down. You can see in the background, there's a big mural. You know, a lot of these approaches, they're not necessarily an expensive endeavor when we think about capital improvements, infrastructure expenditures, you know, large-scale mixed-use development, but it does require an investment of time, and it does require some patience in working with community to be able to create these moments that really capture people. So when we think about why does placemaking matter, and this can take a lot of different shapes, but I think first and foremost, it really is about livability. We want to be in communities where there is that vibrancy, where we can walk to something, where we can build relationships with neighbors and with community members, that social fabric that I think is so important. And I think particularly in this coming summer, I think there's a real spring thaw around us, and I think there's a real COVID thaw, and I think it's going to be a really key time for us to be investing in the social fabric and being able to create safe spaces for community members to come together, to be compassionate with one another and to reconnect. I think placemaking is also really important for the story of a community, about creating and sharing. As noted with the story of Eric and the Salsa Club, we love working with folks that have a passion, artists in the community, to activate spaces. And I think there's a lot to be said about the narrative of being able to make the community you want to live in. You know, this is a place that I want to be. How do we empower folks to say, I can make this the place that I want to be? And that creates a real sense of ownership and agency, and it becomes a story that people want to share about the place that they live. Finally, local economic development. As a placemaking firm and as a group that does a lot of strategy work, the economics are not lost on us. We do a lot of data collection. We spend a lot of time with our vendors and our small businesses thinking about how can we support them and succeed. If we're going to do a sidewalk activation, how do we connect with that neighboring business, that restaurant, and help them understand the power of foot traffic and what they can do to market and to get out on the street, and then be able to record that and to show the impact of an activation or of an event that maybe demonstrates what a new street dining policy could look like. There's a lot of ways that placemaking can help the community understand what's the possibility and the potential of a place. And of course, how does that feed into the local economy? This is one of our primary projects that many of you may be familiar with. This is a photo of the Red River Market from 2 summers ago, 2019, south of the Fargo Forum in downtown Fargo. You can see that there's tons of people sitting, enjoying the beautiful day. Off to the left of the photo is the stage where there's live music. Really thinking about, lots of different components, I said, and sort of this multidisciplinary approach where we want people to spend time here. We want people to be able to shop. There's a utility of coming to a farmer's market. I'm really activating a space that not on a Saturday is a surface parking lot. People would drive by and say, is this really where the farmer's market's going to happen? And they wouldn't believe us when they saw it as just an asphalt parking lot. And I'm sure there's some spots in Moorhead that all of you would look to and say, gosh, I wish there was something more. Well, I think that's where placemaking can help demonstrate what a space can be before perhaps there's a development that comes in or a new public park that's built, the ability to sort of stimulate a location and get people excited. Here's a photo from just not that long ago. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. This was a project that Steve French on our team took on with help from Sherry and Dan to create this beautiful light tunnel at Viking Ship Park in Moorhead. Again, this wasn't an expensive endeavor. It really was sort of that thoughtfulness and time from those mentioned to create something like this and really captured the attention of the community. We think that organic sharing that takes place through social media is a really powerful thing. We think that it's the desire for someone to be able to communicate with their friends like, wow, I had a really special moment. I wanted to share that with you. And the light tunnel, I think, really captured people's hearts. With that, I want to create a little bit of space for any questions. Thank you for providing Folkways the time to share today. This is a really quick overview of placemaking and how we think about it. Like I said, room for questions. And if anyone wants to go a layer deeper, I could probably give a whole thesis presentation on the power of placemaking, but wanted to keep it brief for all of you.
Thank you, Joel. Any questions? Comments?
I can't not make a comment, I guess. I'm just like that person. But no, I think Dan did a really good job summarizing too. And thank you, Joe. Joe actually recently presented to our Downtown Moorhead Inc. board too last week. So obviously what Folkways does and has done in our community here in Moorhead is really impactful. So I think opportunities to expand this is really exciting. I think the fact that we have groups like Joe's and Folkways that see Moorhead maybe in an untapped potential way. I think that's the same way that Sherry and I and so many others view Moorhead, is opportunities to grow and facilitate, business growth, but also just business success with what we already have here. So I think this is a great opportunity, and thank you, Joe, for the time today to give our EDA members an overview of what Folkways is and what they do.
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to reach out and thank Mr. Bergam for that great presentation and echo what Derek said about that Moorhead really is looking to embrace opportunities to do this placemaking. We hope that you come back and connect with many of the businesses and also the other organizations in Moorhead. I love your salsa story, and I think that there's a lot of unique partnerships that could be developed, and we are very supportive of doing that in Moorhead, so thank you.
Joe had a question. When is the next event, and where and when? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And I'm remiss, so I appreciate you being teed up like that. Our next event is actually in Moorhead. So our Spring Farmers Market is taking place on April 24th, coming up here on a Saturday, and we'll be at the Moorhead Center Mall. So we're excited with our Spring Farmers Markets to be able to move those around the community. So we'll have a little pop-up placemaking going on Saturday the 24th at 10 a.m. for anyone that wants to come by and enjoy a little Spring Farmers Market energy.
Hey, Deb, you have your hand up again.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe, thank you so much for coming. And I'll just agree with what's already been said, that Folkways is such a great asset for our community. And I'm really glad that you've been involved with our downtown development plan. And I think the more we can collaborate, the better. And I just wondered, as we're hopefully moving away from the pandemic, what are some of your takeaways just in terms of what you've learned over the last year of how we can work at building good placemaking that adjust to some of those needs that we have in terms of things like the pandemic or climate or things like that?
Yeah, thanks, Deb. Something that's been really relevant on our minds the past year is community builders. I can't say there's ever been a time in my life when I've wanted to host a house concert more, and not being able to. Something that's been sort of prime in our tool belt for connecting with neighbors. I think the big thing that we're seeing in trends that I think will continue is people's appreciation of the outdoors. I know that Moorhead saw it with cross-country skiing. I think that Frostville was reflective of that. We last year were really grateful to be able to host the Red River Market in a really safe and resilient way with the public health crises that we were going through last summer. And knowing a lot more now, we're feeling really confident moving into the summer with open air activities. And I think there's so much to be said about our community and enjoying the season. Whenever I find a south-facing window or a business that's got a patio that's got a little morning light, I always make sure to make note because there's just something so great about that this time of year. So we're really excited to be doing more outdoor activations. And I think really trying to support those restaurants and retail businesses to spill onto sidewalks and to be outdoors, particularly as we be compassionate as we move into this summer and knowing that there's still going to be a warming. You know, we've been through a lot the past 12 months and many of us are now vaccinated, but we want to be thoughtful about how do we create that incremental space for people to come back together and to connect.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Well, thanks, Joe, for the presentation. Appreciate it very much. Moving on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you all.
You're welcome. The Economic Development Report. Derek, do you have anything to say?
Just a couple things. No, it's obviously been another good month. We continue to track COVID as best we can as far as opportunities. I think more things will come out with this American Rescue Plan as a city and county receive some federal funds. So we'll continue to kind of monitor that. I think one of the biggest topics that Sherry and myself and others have been hearing throughout the community is workforce. The challenges of keeping workforce or even getting workers is a tough thing right now. So I think our constant communication with the business owners, making sure we understand their needs and challenges, connect them to resources if possible, is really crucial in making sure that we continue to keep our businesses alive and well. I've said it before, I think this year is going to be a very telling year for so many. So hopefully we can continue to have consumer confidence and community support of our great local businesses here. And in doing that, Sherry and the MBA and Downtown Moorhead Inc., and we are having conversations with the local chamber here, continued our partnership with the State of Minnesota Chamber of Commerce in Grow, Minnesota. This is a business retention and expansion tool. So when we go out and visit with our businesses, we have a survey available that we can collect data. That data is ultimately then shared with the state chamber that can help us with legislative policy development. More importantly, it provides us feedback that we can use here locally. But I think it's always great for our state partners to understand what our challenges are here, specifically on the border, and and just what our businesses are facing on a daily basis too, because sometimes we can be forgotten up here on the very western side of the state. I may be able to kind of skip over the next one, but we'll go to a quick video. Amy will try to pull up. I had the opportunity to be a part of a group called Revitalize Minnesota. They came into town. They went across western Minnesota to do kind of a policy tour to make sure that the state of Minnesota retain their historic tax credits. Those were set to be sunset this year. And this group took it upon themselves to kind of go out and gather stories and information about how they can preserve it. We'll watch the video, and then maybe I'll give a quick update on where that is at in the legislative process. So Amy, if you can try to play that. We'll pause that. We'll restart it, see if we get audio. Dan, can you hear that from your end? No?
We're not hearing it.
Okay,
Sorry.
we'll try to get audio. If we can't, we'll definitely share the video. I know we've shared it on social media. We can give it just a second. In the meantime, I'll just say this morning I got an email from the Revitalize Minnesota group. I think Paul Marquardt, Representative Marquardt, has recommended an 8-year extension to those historic tax credits. So that is a good news. Goes on to some of those working committees. So hopefully we'll see some progress in keeping those historic tax credits relevant in our state. We'll just keep going, and then maybe we can try to get that up in a little bit. Couple other really great things. I know we talked a lot here with Joe and Folkways on our downtown plan, and we're very thankful for them to be a part of it. Stantec, who is also working on the city comprehensive plan, has been utilizing, I think, our success with our plan quite frequently. So I was able to join them on a presentation to the entire international downtown membership, which is global. So we had a presentation with myself, the Stantec team, and Jeff Fleur from Greater Wichita in Kansas. We had a really great conversation. We spoke to a few hundred folks. And really got to plug our plan and the success that we had from an engagement standpoint. With that, Stantec had thought we had a really good shot at winning a downtown award through the IDA. So we did submit an application for our downtown master plan to the International Downtown Association, which hopefully we'll find out in the next few months if we were recognized with an award for the good work that was done. Obviously, it's nice to be recognized, but we still need to continue the work. So looking forward to continued partnerships like Folkways and others to continue the great success that we've been having over the last couple of years. Do we have it up? Oh, I think we got it up and running. We'll try to play that video. When you drive around Greater Minnesota and you see those old historic main streets, there's something special. So much of what we try to do in economic development and growth perspectives is looking at job creation, and the Simon Warehouse is a prime example. You have a project like this that ultimately brings construction jobs, but the spin-off of these projects and what that means to a variety of different industries and kind of marketplaces is very, very impactful. This was, in our sense, is a catalytic project for our downtown growth.
When we talk about historical tax credits, you're talking about revitalizing the character of a city or a space, and you're talking about the historical importance of a building. And to me, not only is it like storytelling, but it's also about the heritage.
Our development community is small. We're not attracting national developers or even broad-scale regional developers. These are people right in our backyard that are making this investment in our community. I think if the historic tax credits were to sunset and it wasn't to be extended, you would see less businesses or developers take a chance. Having access to historic tax credits is one of the only reasons why this project and others happen across the state. So yeah, I think their team just did a really great job capturing it. They actually did a full-scale video that captured, I think, Fergus Falls and St. Cloud and Alexandria and a few others. But I think their team was impressed with obviously Tim, and Tim did a great job. He's the chair of our planning commission here in Moorhead. But they were impressed with it. They actually cut their own video for us here in Moorhead and shared that on their social media platform. So excited to be a part of that. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot of historic buildings left in Moorhead, but there are still some out there that we hope we see some change in the future. And keeping that program alive and well in our state is obviously a great asset to seeing some change happen. So thank you to Revitalize Minnesota, and hopefully we see that program continue. The only other thing I'll add here is just continue to be alerted of our city comprehensive plan, that program process that I just mentioned, the Onward Moorhead. I have a link in the plan. Make sure you see that. It's actually on your information update too. Also, Clay County is doing a comprehensive and transportation plan. That link is in my packet as well. MetroCog is working with the Clay County on that. I strongly encourage all to take the time to do their survey and be engaged in that. I think we have an opportunity to work with the county and really think a little bit bigger and broader on how I think Moorhead can enhance the county as a whole. So please take the time to look at that as well. And with that, I'll pause and answer any questions the group may have.
Thank you, Derek. That was a great video too. I've watched it a few times. Next item on the agenda is the election of officers, and I'm going to turn the gavel over to you.
Yeah, I'll just try to take this one for the group and just try to kind of give a little context. So we mentioned at the last EDA meeting that we were kind of seeking nominations or levels of interest if people were interested in being chair, or vice chair, or secretary. We did not hear back from folks. We kind of had some conversation, had conversations with our existing officers, which is obviously Michael Burns as chair, Nate Anderson as vice chair, and Bobby Celine as secretary. We felt, and we've seen this through a few other organizations across town, just with the strangeness and uniqueness of 2020, that if willing, which all three individuals were willing to still serve in that capacity, that we would just remain in those office roles for 2021. So I'll kind of just put it out there that we would keep Michael Burns as chair, Nate Anderson as vice chair, and Bobby Celine as our secretary for 2021, and would look for a motion from the group to see that move forward.
So moved.
Right. I think that was Nate, right? Oh, it's a Chad? Sorry, Chad. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right, perfect. So we have our officers set for 2021, and thank you to Mike, Nate, and Bobby for agreeing to that.
All right, moving on. Item number 10, any information and update on new items that either you or Amy care to share?
You know, nothing really new. Again, just make sure you're staying diligent. Between Amy and myself, we'll be making sure that the EDA members all see the opportunities to engage in those comprehensive planning efforts, either through the city or through Clay County. I think the more we can share, so share through your resources. Obviously, we work through Sherry and the MBA quite a bit as well on that. But your public comments, everybody's public comment is valued in how we want to grow as a community.
Thank you. Well, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you.